I was in a show in Baltimore, Maryland about, probably 3 or 4 years ago, maybe longer. But anyway, I had the big spin around there was the movie The Secret and all this stuff about, and all these people are in the aisle and they all have a booth. They paid lots of money for this booth. They're trying to sell their wares, and they were going around saying, well, the thing that bothered me about The Secret was the thing about money. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, that's interesting. And it's that they were basically, and I'm going to use a quote from Abraham, that they were arguing for their, what's the word? I think I wrote it down here. They were arguing for their own limitations, basically. So what they were saying was that, to me it sounded like they were saying it's really bad to be making money off of this film or off of this idea or whatever it is that Abraham and a lot of other people who have been out there giving to us, this idea that we can actually be happy and make money doing and still be happy making money, and we don't have to feel guilty about making money, because there seemed to be this whole guilt thing around making money.
Then The Secret didn't tell them the secret.
Apparently not.
Still withholding the secret.
Right. So, well, we know that, but yeah.
Well, what we're getting at is, how do you know? Well, everything, the words that were written there are accurate words.
Right.
In other words, it's not that the manuscript itself was so lacking. It's that the person receiving is receiving through the lens of their own expectation. And so if you have been trained to believe that money is inappropriate, and then you live life and want some, now there's a lot of split energy going on. I want this thing that is inappropriate. And when they say what bothers me is the money, what they're actually saying, and there is a pretty strong movement around it, is I choose to be spiritual, or I choose religion, or I choose God over money.
Right. Or
I choose what is spiritual over that which is material. And we're wanting to help you to remember that you are spirit in material form. In other words, it's not either or. This manifestation that you see as a materialized world is evidence of your alignment with that which is spirit, you see. And so if someone believes that money is bad and they want to be good, then they're holding themselves in discord. If somebody believes that money is bad and they don't mind being bad, then they get plenty of money. It's an interesting thing. And then people who want to be good say, see, that's what I said was wrong with money. Look at all those bad people who have money. I don't want to be one of those bad people who has money. And they can't hear us when we say, then be a good person who has money.
Right.
Be a happy person who has money. Be a successful person. Success is alignment, you see. So that's why we try to break it down in a way that makes more sense if you are patient enough to, when you're outside the vortex, to listen until you get in, that through life, when you don't have enough money, you want more money. When you don't have enough clarity, you want more clarity. When you're suffering, you want relief from that suffering. In other words, you've been building this escrow, and the larger part of you has become the vibrational equivalent of it. And the reason that you feel any negative emotion is not because you're depriving yourself of the money that you want, or you're depriving yourself of the clarity that you want, or you're depriving yourself of the love relationship you want. The reason that you feel negative emotion is because you're depriving yourself of the alignment that must be in order to feel all that you are. That's why it's so misunderstood when we say it's about emotion, it's about the way you feel. Then people say, well, that's too simplistic. And we say, for some, Esther's father used to say, and Esther's quoted him frequently, some people would complain if they were hanged with a new rope.
Right.
In other words, you just cannot find a way to make some people focus in a way that will give them the alignment that they are seeking.
Right.
Money is not the path to happiness. Happiness, however, is the path to money.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree, because I don't know why this is, but from a very young age, I must have connected with Abraham very young. But anyway, I've always realized these kind of things, and I've never had trouble making money. I've always been successful in most everything I've ever done. And I think it's because I just don't go to that place where I can't be successful. I just totally believe that I can be.
One of the things that is helpful for someone like you, and for our previous artist friend, and for so many of you who have seen yourself as creatively talented, even though everything is creation. We're talking about music and art and so forth, is that in order to really be happy with your own work, you had to have an in the vortex moment.
Right. Exactly.
Because you just can't, you don't create work that pleases you from outside the vortex. So often your quest for that kind of success, it's like someone writing a song and trying, and then all of a sudden they're in the vortex, although they don't use that terminology, and the words just flow so easily to them. And so they're always waiting for that moment, not realizing that they could conjure that moment by getting into the vortex and then applying their attention to whatever the object is that they're wanting to create. So you had the advantage of the vortex tuning you to the frequency of it without even really knowing you were doing it, because you can't be creatively successful unless you are in alignment.
Right.
And you show yourself that pretty early on. Be in a bad mood and go try to paint something, and while you can still splash the stuff on the canvas, and there might even be somebody in equally as bad a mood as you were who would buy it.
Right, yeah.
It wasn't pleasing to you. You did not feel the success, the ease and flow of it.
Yeah, I want to make one quick little statement about, success. It's right now in this world we seem to be living in, it's like there's all this negativity around, making money, how bad the economy is, all of this stuff. And the three people, myself and my two friends that came here today, we've had banner years. So there's really no truth to any of that stuff that's out there. I don't think, anyway.
It's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
The confusion. We started today by talking about how easy it is to get scrambled in ideas or content or philosophies or opinions, because there are so many people offering so many dissenting opinions about so many things. But let's just talk about the basics of economics. When someone says you should not be wasteful, which means you should not buy things you don't need, you want to step back and say, and how does that affect the economy? There's a contradiction.
Right.
Because they want to grow the economy, they just don't want you to waste things. And they can't have it both ways. In other words, are you supposed to buy it or are you not supposed to buy it? And who gets to decide what waste is? How limited a life experience do you have to live before you are not wasteful? And so if you are following the philosophy of not being wasteful, you're looking every day for ways to spend less money, which means you are contributing less and less and less to the economy. Yes?
Absolutely.
So what happens is, and there are hundreds of things like that, where people are just, there was a delightful man years ago who was a carpenter of beautiful closets. And he sat in the hot seat and presented to us his disgust at these excessive people who would spend with him $100,000 on a closet. Closet.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Even though it was his livelihood, he still disapproved of it.
Right.
And so what happens is, this is what we meant as we began here today, that when you're trying to decide how to behave by seeing how other humans respond to your behavior, you just must be driving yourself nuts, because if you spend something, even though you didn't need it, those who sold it to you will applaud, but those who believe that you have wasted it because you have deprived someone else of it will not. And we say they are so missing the the laws of the universe, that this is the fundamental thing that they have forgotten. As you are here as manifested versions of this source energy, and as you explore the variety, the contrast, the variety, and you come to your personal conclusions about what you would like, the universe expands to accommodate that vibrational request in the moment that you gave birth to it. So in your prodding at a problem, the solution comes forward. In your prodding at a question, the answer comes forward. So the economics are expanding because of the plight of those who are suffering. Any of you, no matter how big or how small, when you know what you don't want, you know what you do want, and the vibrational economy expands. But almost no one understands what a vibrational economy is, because they're measuring what is by manifested standards and squabbling over the what isness of it. Now we're really onto something. Stay with us, because this will take you into a whole new place relative to money. So the basic argument between those who understand the expansive universe and those who are trying to quantify the existing universe is the pie is only this big, Abraham. It's only this big. This is the reality of the pie. And when we divide it up, if that guy takes a lot, then the rest will be left with less. Isn't that just a natural law of physics, they would say? And we would have to agree. If what is the pie, and as it is, that guy takes way a lot, which will mean these people will have to divvy up what's left, then that would be a valid argument. But they have left out the main pie.
Well, it's always
they
expanding.
have left out the vortex. They have left out the expansion. They
Exactly.
have left out where energy goes. They have left out the expansion. In other words, what is the bouncing off place for more. This is what you're staking your claim to. And when you stake your claim to this vibrational version, to the expanding universe version, how long ago was it that on this continent people were trading fur and beads and fish? Not that long ago. That was the economy. That was the what isness. That was the what isness. But it didn't stay there, because that life experience caused a desire for more and more and more. And the universe is expanding from the vibrational version, which is infinite. So those are the two philosophies that are clashing. There's the realism of what is and trying to define who should get it. And over again, government keeps looking at what is and dividing it all up and splitting it out, doing their best to make it equal. If they could take everything that existed, all your property, all your money, all your possessions, and divide them up among you, in 10 years, most of it would have moved back to the way it was before, because it is a vibrational attraction. But it's not just the dividing up of what exists and it moving back. It's that this vortex will fill in for those who are a vibrational match to it. Are you with us? Stay further. So a man said to us one day, Abraham, I've lost my fortune. I am 60 years old. I've been amassing it for a long time. I have lost my fortune. And now I don't have 60 more years to do what it took in order to get it back. And we said to him, you are not taking stock of your vibrational escrow. That was about the time that the vibrational escrow verbiage even came into being, because he was measuring the what isness, and what we wanted to say to him, they could take away everything you've ever manifested, but your vibrational evolution is still at a different level. And if you will relax into what your vibrational evolution is, the universe will have to deliver to you what matches what you have vibrationally evolved to immediately. You don't have to start over again, you see.